Every character, location or experience you've read about in my crime fiction novels holds a piece of reality. I'm Helen Taylor. Welcome to the story behind my stories, the video podcast where crime fiction meets my authentic experience. Here, we delve into the real-life inspirations and intimate stories that shaped my novels. Discover how my everyday encounters, adventures, and travels translate into tales as gripping as they are genuine. The story behind my stories goes behind the words on the page to reveal the backstory that inspires my writing. Hit follow or subscribe and ensure you're part of this journey. Morning everybody. So, today I am doing another one from my morning walk, purely because with the background sounds of the birds it just sounds a lot more cosy with us talking about the story behind my stories than sitting in the studio. So we left last week after talking about going into the jungle to work out the trails that we would use for the pony trekking, which was, as I said then, a definite new experience for me. So today I just wanted to touch on two other extracts from the book that have from my own experience of living in Thailand for the year. And I'll read those to you too, because they describe a lot of how it felt, even though it's slightly out of context for Goodwin. He hadn't been there months when he went to the restaurant and had a roast dinner, which is the first one I'll talk about, Vantana's. I don't know if it's still there, but it was very popular among British people, particularly. It was owned and run by a Thai woman and a British man, and they imported or managed to find British stuff. So I love Thai food, and I came back and all I ate when I came back was Thai food, and I lived on it. I loved my dried shrimp chili broth in the mornings. I loved my Thai curries, particularly the red one, the way they made that. And then Lek was always getting me to try different things, and I did go with Dewey several times up to Bangkok to help her with her visa application to be able to come over to the UK with Dave, I told you about previously, a British postman. So Vantana's was the restaurant in Thong Salar, morning, that allowed you, you were able to go to and have British fare, baked beans, proper baked beans, Marmite, HP sauce, but a roast dinner with Yorkshire puddings and roast potatoes, which when I first moved to Thailand I wasn't that fussed on. It was hot. Who wanted a roast dinner? But I think everybody, when they live abroad for a period, misses some things from home. And one of those things often is the food comforts of home. Paul loved his roast dinners. I used to cook them for him all the time before he ever went to Thailand, or before he went to Thailand that time that he had his accident. And at this point he hadn't come back at all, so he definitely liked to visit to Vantana's. And it was, in both senses of the word, a taste of home. Being able to have a roast dinner and to feel like you were back home for a few minutes. So I do have Goodwin go there at the beginning, partly as a bit of a shout out, but partly because it is important when you're away. Not for the time that Goodwin was away, but for the time that I was there, it was. And it just added a change to constantly describing Thai food. So I'm going to read you that chapter, not that chapter, that excerpt now of Goodwin when he went to Vantana's. Dan pulled up in a small gap between vehicles, just past the road on the left, nodding at Goodwin. "Vantana," Dan said, pointing down the side road. Goodwin had no clue what this meant. While waiting in the queue to use the ATM at the Krung Thai Bank, Goodwin looked around and down the side road. A sandwich board outside one of the restaurants announced roast beef with all the trimmings. Sunday roast! He withdrew some cash, tucking it in his wallet as he headed straight towards the promise of England's finest meal. Choosing to sit inside rather than at a table in the open to avoid mosquitoes, Goodwin chose one of the tables to the right of the room. As he was taking a seat facing out of the restaurant, a Thai woman handed him a menu. The menu, along with the writing across the top of the sandwich board and the sign across the front of the building, confirmed this place was called Vantana's. "Welcome to Vantana," said the waitress. Goodwin thanked her. He smiled to himself. That was what Dan was telling him. This was the Western place to come, and Dan had suspected, correctly, that Goodwin would choose to eat here. The menu boasted real English fare, breakfast with English bacon, real British bangers, and mash with oxo gravy, marmite on toast, as well as fish and chips, gammon and pineapple, and bacon butties. This place must get tourist trade from all the travellers craving a taste of home. He shouldn't be eating here. He'd only just left home. The delights of Thai cuisine should be what he ate. It was Sunday, though. Didn't that entitle him to a roast? He could eat Thai the rest of his time here. Just this once he'd eat Western food. He looked around the restaurant. 2 televisions showing MTV provided the music in the restaurant. A bar the length of the left-hand side boasted Carlsberg on draft, bottled Strongbow, empty bottles of tequila with little Mexican hats as lids, and the usual spirits found in England, along with their Thai counterparts. Several items adorned the walls, including a Beck's mirror. The whole place had a flavour of the UK without being in any way trashy or taking away the Thai feeling. His meal arrived. Boy, did it look good. No Thai substitutes for English ingredients, but the real thing. Several large slices of quality beef, 3 large golden roast potatoes, carrots, cauliflower, sprouts, and peas, topped with a big, light Yorkshire pudding, all smothered in beefy gravy. Goodwin's mouth filled again, just with the thought and smell of the meal. He couldn't get his knife and fork out of the napkin quick enough. Just as he sliced into the beef, the waitress reappeared with a small pot of horseradish sauce. Why didn't he think of that? Because he didn't expect them to have it. Perfect. It tasted at least as good as it looked. The vegetables had bite, they weren't done to death. The gravy was meating, the beef tender, the Yorkshire melt in the mouth, and the roast potatoes were light and crispy. It's funny how a roast for him hits somewhere other meals just don't. A meal shared by families on a Sunday that satisfied on both an emotional level and a physical level. So the other thing, which was much more for the book and a lot less an experience that I had when I was out there, that I wanted to bring into the book to give a taste of being alone in Thailand. So when I don't want to give too much of the book away, if you haven't read it, you need to read it, but I will read you the extract in a moment. But Mug, who I've told you about in previous chapters, in previous episodes, I should say, one of his friends that would come and sit around the table and share food of an evening was a policeman, and all the staff knew him because he came to charm. So when I got to the bit in the book where he needed to go to the police station, then Piek, who is represented by Dam in the book, took me to the police station, and I met Mug's friend there, who just gave me a little tour. I did try to ask a bit more detailed questions about what they do with crimes and things like that, but I didn't get a vast amount of information. But I did get to take a photo of the police station, which you will see on the intro for the story behind my stories, and to see inside the police station. So I'm going to read that bit for you now. He walked up the path, bordered by landscaped gardens and a pond to the right, toward the 2-storey building, the ground floor white concrete, the second a blue-grey corrugated design. A balcony reached up by a flight of stairs either side of the doorway overhung the entrance. The balcony was adorned with several Thai flags pasted to the front and hung on flagpoles, and the signs Goodwin had seen earlier. A thick, silky pink ribbon tied at intervals draped over the top rail of the balcony, with a picture of the King of Thailand central to the display. Goodwin stepped up to the door that was slid all the way open to the right-hand side. The door, as well as the walls on either side, was tinted brown glass at the top and corrugated brown metal from waist height down. 5 yellow-bordered signs stuck to the glass above the door and the walls were all in Thai, which he could not read. Neither could he read the sign writing on the 2 glass walls. He walked in. He paused inside the door. To the right were several policemen sitting at a bench, looking toward the office in front of them. To his left stood 2 rows of orange plastic chairs. One of the policemen pointed to the chairs, saying, "Wait here." Goodwin took a seat. He could see a man behind a closed window facing to the right, talking across a desk to a Westerner. He figured that was what he was waiting for, the other Westerner to finish his story, whatever it might be. He could only make out mumblings as the man was sitting in an open doorway to the waiting area. Most of any unintelligible words were drowned out by the television positioned above the desk on the wall, the source of the rapt attention of the policeman sitting in the waiting area at the bench. Just outside the door to the right, Goodwin could see two further doors, one labelled Superintendent, and to the left of that another labelled Interrogation in both languages. Past the interrogation room, a sign next to the further door announced visiting times for prisoners. This sign was only in English. Do they only have English prisoners? Do the Thais not visit prisoners? Or would Thai visitors be allowed access at any time? Goodwin waited his turn. The station was smaller than would be found in the UK, but the number of people it needed to serve was smaller too. It was clean and tidy, with several pinboards holding memos and a structure chart supported by photos. The demeanour of the policeman was relaxed. He relaxed, deciding this was the right thing to do. He looked over at the policemen sitting opposite him. Seeing their brown uniforms explained the colour scheme here in the station. Both their trousers and long-sleeve shirts were the same chocolate colour. Their shirts clung to them tightly, not through sweat, as none was visible, even beneath their arms, but by design. Their trousers were belted with a broad black belt supporting a mobile phone in a holster on their left, and on the right side a holster containing a handgun. One had a slim orange cord from his left lapel running beneath his armpit. Another had a shield-style coloured badge on his left arm covering his deltoid muscle. The third had a silver stars on his lapel. He'd no idea how these related to seniority or position within the station. Their hats were the flat peaked style like the American police. Again, the felt material was chocolate in colour, with a darker band around it above the plastic peak. A maroon-coloured cord also ran round the band. The front held a silver police shield. Conscious of staring, he dropped his gaze to their feet, all covered with plain black shoes. No flip-flops in here. Go. One of them was waving at him to take the now vacant seat at the desk through the open doorway. He stood and walked over, sitting with his back to the water cooler, facing across the desk a sharp, clean-cut looking Thai man. Sharp as in neatness of dress, but which also matched his features. So that was Goodwin's visit to the police station. And that just gave me a feel for it, and I obviously knew a policeman who knew where I was staying, but before I met him, this Thai police are quite scary because, well, I don't know, is it because they have guns? I don't know. So, on to the rest of the story. When I was in Thailand, I think it was around the May time, there became a very distinct lack of tourists coming to the island in general. It was the year that SARS hit, if you remember. Well, some of you may be too young to remember that, but 2003, was bird flu, avian flu, SARS. It was an illness that wreaked havoc across Asia, and people were advised not to travel. I was obviously already there. It never hit me, but it did hit tourism in the region. Hit it very hard. And then, as I've told you in previous episodes, I was coming home to go on holiday to Spain with my mum and dad in the June, which I did do. And Mug and I planned that when I flew back again, he would meet me in Bangkok, and we would go from there to where we could buy the horses and pick the horses that we wanted for the pony trekking. So that was all set up when I left Thailand to come home to go on holiday with my mum and dad, which I did, and everything was great. We had a fantastic time. It's brilliant to see my dad. He was in good spirits, and spend some time with both of them. So before I flew back out, I had a chat with Lek, and the decision was made that we wouldn't be going to look at the horses at that time because we were unsure of how that would work and the financial viability at that time, because they just didn't have any idea of how SARS was going to impact ongoing, because tourism hadn't improved and Charm was dead. There was very few people there at all. So when I flew back, and now I no longer got planes and things. Flew back, walked across the road, jumped on the night train, or jumped on the train that took me into the central station in Bangkok. Got on the night train, got that down to Surrey, got the boat from Surrey over to Panyang, and we decided at that point that the pony trekking was not going to happen. SARS ruined the chances of that, with my timid limitation of only being out there for a year because of my dad. So I was then freed up basically for the rest of 2003, and I will drop an episode next week about some of the adventures I had then, because they did shape me into who I am now, but they didn't shape the writing of tie-dye. But it might just be interesting for you anyway. So, pony trekking's off. I finished tie-dye. I sat in my hammock, or the first draft before I went through all the edits. And I'll tell you next time what I did in that second 6 months that I lived in Thailand in 2003. See you next week.